You're so good. What the?
All right. Okay. Well, good morning, you guys. This is Karla, and I'm super excited to be doing this call today. I know that I said that we were going to be doing 4 calls of growth culture. I'm going to see if we can wrap it up with this one. If not, then for sure we'll do the 4th one. But you guys, I have to tell you, the reason why I'm saying I want to wrap it up is because over the weekend, I had an opportunity to go. As many of you guys know, I'm very involved with Landmark Education, and I had an opportunity to be at an advanced course, it was so perfect because we've been talking about the growth culture and how to build a culture around your team, and really what does it look like when you do that. And so this weekend, it was so great because the advanced course is all about how to have transformation at the level of group. And it was amazing. I took tons and tons of notes, and I mean, even if I explain it to you, which I'm going to do the best that I can, it's like everything, right? It's not the same as when I can explain a movie, but when you're actually there experiencing it for yourself, it's super transformational. So anyhow, I was like thinking this morning, I'm like, my gosh, this weekend was perfect because, as you guys, for those of you who have been on the call since the beginning, of this particular series, the whole idea that we've been building on has been how to create growth culture with your team. And, a lot of the times, many of us start thinking, growth culture really means, I don't know what people think. But anyhow, so one of the things that we started looking at is what are the consequences when you don't have it. Like when you're not, and I love this word, intentional. When you're not intentional about your growth culture, there's consequences to that. And I'm going to be the first one to admit that I have completely experienced them way too many times, right? Where when you're not intentional, you have low sales, you have stagnant growth, you've got people that come in and they get it out, there's inconsistency in service, you don't really know what works, what doesn't work, because you're kind of like doing things on a hit and miss basis, right? And the growth culture really is something, it's an environment that when you put in place, it will start to dissolve all those frustrations. Okay, so when you have things in place at the level of group, which I'm going to see if I can kind of squeeze in some things that I learned over the weekend. When you have things in place at the level of group, things will resolve because it's not just about you, but you have a team behind you or with you on the same path, on the same mission, right? And so this is a very different way, a different approach perhaps, because it's rather than trying to get people to do things or motivate people to do things, it's really, we wanted to look at what are their interests. And we started talking about how important it is to really start asking people questions like, what's important to them, and to really get into their world. As we mentioned in the last call series of sales, is that people are always hiding, and they want to be discovered. And when you can ask the questions and get them to discover, and even get them to discover something that they didn't know that they wanted, and you have the solution to that want, you've got a customer without a push, without force, but it's a total enrollment of the sale. You're enrolling somebody into what you've got because you've allowed them to discover themselves and discover their wants. And maybe it was a want that they didn't even know that they wanted, right? And so we started looking at what am I missing in the growth culture, and I had you guys look at what were you missing, to start thinking of a solution, not from a content like I'm missing a flyer, but rather to start looking at it as the mentality, like what's missing with my group, what's missing with me, like what structures are missing. And so anyhow, that was the first call. Then we started looking at what does it take to have a team, a real team. And I know a lot of times I challenge that notion of there's no I in team. And we started looking at, yes, there is, because really what a team is a collection of individuals with a collective goal. So it's a group of people that have an alignment in one thing, or several things, right? But really what makes a good team, it's made up of a group of people who have discovered what their self-interest is and that it fits that the goals of the team. And I, when I talked about the World Cup, because, obviously, if someone, everybody that's there, I'm sure, I'm going to assume that everybody on the team wants to win the World Cup, right? So, like, USA is going to play today. And I'm assuming, and I think it's a pretty fair assumption, right? But let's just say that one person on the team, all of a sudden, the coach starts noticing that they start drifting, that they start not being as involved. Rather than motivating them, like, come on, man, like Omar, right, our guy from the Galaxy, he did amazing his last time. But let's just say, for example, Omar starts getting, like, disconnected. He gets late to the practice. He's not really giving it his all. And as a coach, meaning you, as a coach, the coach notices that Omar is not giving it his all. Now, the coach could go in and be like, come on, Omar, let's go, come on. And that might work temporarily. But what if the coach were to grab Omar, put him to the side and go, all right, man, what's going on? Talk to me, man. Talk to me. And he might then be like, oh, I don't know. And then Omar, and here's the thing, and this is something that I learned over the weekend, is as a leader, right? Like a true leader is one that develops other leaders. And that's what we're going to talk about today's call. And as a true leader, here's the thing. Although I am saying there's got to be an I in team, as a true leader, it can't be about you. So although I'm saying there's an I in team, what I mean by that is I don't want you guys to be confused, like it's all about you. It's completely the opposite. There is an I in team, meaning that as a leader, you must discover what each individual's interests are and align them with the team's goals. Because when and if you can do that, you've got a solid team that has everyone participating. Everybody's involved. Everybody's like in it to win it, as they say, right? But if you don't have, it's like, and I gave you an example last week, like, you've got a group or a team of people that are like, yeah, we're going to get ripped and all this stuff. And you've got somebody on the team that you notice they don't come to class, they're inconsistent, they're not that motivated. And you're like, oh, man, and you could think like they're just lazy or whatever, right? You can pass judgment. But that doesn't serve anyone, especially you as a leader, okay? But what if you took the time to actually go in there and say, hey, like in this case, Omar, right? Hey, Omar, talk to me, man. What's going on? Oh, nothing. It's what they're going to say, right? But anyhow, I'm not going to get into the whole conversation here, but the point is, if you look back at the sales calls, by the way, it's all up on YouTube now, but if you go back on the sales calls, I gave you words and questions that you could ask where you could start to discover what is there for them. And if you can really get, in this case, Omar to discover for himself what's there for him, number one, Omar feels heard. Number two, Omar feels gotten. Now, as a leader, you can make a difference. And this is something that I have learned in my coaching at Landmark, and that is, you cannot make a difference with, let me rephrase that. If you want to be effective in making a difference without being forceful, the way to do it is by getting in the other person's world, meaning that you really get and you really understand and you have them create for you what it is that they're going through, or what it is, or what it's been like for them, or what they're dealing with, or what they're grappling with, whatever. And yes, it takes patience. And I am the first one to admit that it takes something to sit there and listen. I'm the first one to admit, right? But when you do that is when you can make the most amount of difference with somebody else. And when you can make a difference with people, you can make a difference with the group. Because a group is nothing more, nothing less than a group of people, oh my God, my computer just froze. With a group of people all aligned for a common cause. There it is. And, sorry, you guys. Anyway, and so what was I saying? Okay, so when you can make that kind of a difference is when you can then come in and pull it as a group, right? So last week we left off that when you can do that, you have a cultural shift, and people stop going from I have to a choice. So they start going from being a victim and start acting based on choice. And that's powerful because guess what, you guys? That one conversation that you have with that individual will save you weeks of motivation and weeks of come on, you can do it kind of a thing, because now they are generating themselves to get to class on time, to go to the STSs, to go to extravaganza, right? Like you can tell somebody, hey, extravaganza, and get them all pumped up and everything, and you're like, why are you going to extravaganza? I have no freaking clue, but I'm going because everybody else is. Right? That person, if they bought their own ticket and did their own thing, it's because they have it at their self-interest, meaning I'm going to have fun, I'm going to be connecting with people, whatever it is, right? That interest will be fulfilled if they go to Chicago, which is fine. But I'm going to invite you guys, and this is, totally off the subject, but not really. One of the most effective things that if I could say there was one thing that I did really, really well, there's many, right? I'm working on this. Hold on. Okay, hold on. There's many things that I've done well, but one of the things that I will say that made a big difference in my result at the extravaganza was that I would get my group together before we left, like a week or so. And I got everybody to share why they were going. Like, really brief. I don't want to hear a story, right? But, like, why are you going? And at that moment, you will be surprised at what you discover. I remember one lady, she's like, I'm going because it's a great way to get away from my house. Now, I'm so glad that I did that, because let's just call this person, I don't know, Kathy, right? I'm so glad I did that, because had Kathy not said that, I would have not been able to make a difference. She would have gone to extravaganza without a goal, without any clue. Probably would have been like, I remember it was New Orleans, probably would have been like hanging out the New Orleans streets and missed the whole thing, right? Now, here's the thing. Don't make people wrong, because that's what's there for them at that moment. So I told her, I said, okay, that's great, Cassie. I'm glad that you can take this as a way to get away for the weekend. Why else are you going? Like, really? If you can get away for the weekend anywhere else, why else are you going? And she's like, I don't know. And I said, well, look. And here, I took this phrase from the leader this weekend. Oh my God, I was like stealing phrases left and right this weekend. The leader at the advanced course was amazing. She was, if I can say this as a bad word, maybe, I don't know. She was a badass. She was like a ninja with a big old heart. Like, it was amazing to see how somebody could get your stuff straight and you still love her. Like, I mean, it was just amazing. And one of the things that she did is when she would ask people questions that they wanted her to give them the answers, she would say, well, just look and shut up. I was like, oh, that's a good one, right? So I passed the knowledge on to you, right? So ask them questions. Why are you going? And they go, I don't know. Well, just look. And you be quiet. Anyhow, finally, she said what she said, is she wanted to, learn about, she wanted to go. They always give you generic answers, right? Like, oh, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to learn, I want to grow my business. Okay, great, that's fantastic. You want to grow your business, I got it. Now, let me ask you something. What is it that you need in order to grow your business? And they go, well, I don't know. I go, well, look. What's something that you say, you know what, I really want to learn how to what? And you be quiet. And you write these things down, right? Because here's the thing. I'm talking about extravaganza, but really you can do this for anything. You can ask these questions for anything to really start to mentor people on we're talking about a growth culture. This is how you have a growth culture, is by understanding what it is that they need in order to grow. And here's the thing, so many times we have the assumption, I know I used to and I still do sometimes, that they already know because you've told them. Listen, I have somebody, I will never forget, this particular person was like, I don't even know how many years was in the business. and did not understand the difference between volume, personal volume and organizational volume. I wonder if he still gets it, but I never double-checked and triple-checked because at the end of the day, I really assumed that after all the training, he goes to all the SDSs, he goes to all the leadership development weekends, he goes to all the extravaganzas. Why would he not know? But guess what? That's another thing I learned over the weekend at the advanced course. As a leader, so there was this person as a captain, okay, as a group, he was the leader of the support team, right? So I was like assisting at the course. And yes, assisting for free. People always ask me, what do you get? I'm like, nothing, man. I would pay them to go help. Got as much value as I get for being there. But anyhow, his name's Angelo. And, I was walking around in flip-flops because I got there really early. We get there an hour and a half before everybody else shows up to set the room up. And to have it be impeccable, because their distinction is, what is it called? Anyway, I forgot what the first word is, but of excellence. The whole thing is all about excellence, right? And delivering excellence, there we go. And so he didn't step over anything. Now, I got really annoyed because he looks at me, he goes, because I was wearing I was like, had a dress and had flip-flops on. He's like, did you bring other shoes? And I was like, and then in my head, I'm like, yeah, right? I got totally annoyed with him. And I was like, yes, of course I did. He's like, okay, just checking. Walked away. I was so mad. I was so annoyed. I was like thinking, anyway, you don't want to know what I was thinking. But I started laughing because I understand the distinctions of that technology, and I understand that him as a leader, a real effective leader, checks and double checks and doesn't step over anything, right? Now, he could not have asked me because he would have assumed, oh, well, Karla, she's got it, right? But he doesn't know if maybe my heel broke. He doesn't know if maybe I forgot my shoes. He doesn't know. And by him assuming, let's say at 10 o'clock when the class started, 10 o'clock came around and the head leader, her name's Kathy, if Kathy saw me in flip-flops, she wouldn't be mad at me. She would be mad at Angelo. She would have had it with Angelo because Angelo's responsible for the team, meaning me. So she would have gone to Angelo and said, hey, Angelo, why is Karla wearing flip-flops? And he would have said, I don't know. Oh, you do not want to say that to Kathy because as a leader, you have to know. And, and so I went up to him and I cleaned it up and I was like, hey, listen, I just want to, I want to apologize because when you told me about the flip-flop thing, I was really upset and really annoyed because how it occurred for me was that you were doubting me. And I was like, dude, I got this. But I get that you were doing it because you were double-checking because you want to make sure that the weekend runs with excellence. So I got why you were doing it. I want to apologize. He's like, okay, I got it. I mean, I love hanging out with these people because you can tell them anything and they don't take anything personal, right? So anyhow, why I'm saying this is because here comes the extravaganza. My question to you is, right, as a mentor, as mentoring your team is, are you checking and double-checking? I remember one of the things that I also did with this New Orleans, listen, because of the things that I did at the extravaganza to New Orleans, in 1 week, we moved over $70,000 worth of business in 1 week. You heard me right. We did over $70,000 worth of business in 1 week when we came back from extravaganza. Because the 13 people that I took, or that we went, I got them together. I asked them why they were going. I wrote down why they were going, what they wanted to learn. I mean, I knew everything about them. Then I said, do you have your flight? I had a checklist. Do you have your flight? Yes. Do you have your hotel room? Yes. Where are you staying? Yes. Do you have the agenda to the event? Okay, great. Here's the agenda. And I remember printing out copies because there was one thing that I did very strongly disliked was that people would always be like, Karla, where are we going? What does that mean? And they would ask me a million questions, and it would really frustrate me because I was at the tag team meeting, which means a leadership meeting, when the guys that you had to qualify for that. So I wouldn't be totally present because I would be bombarded with texts with all kinds of questions. So I made sure, as the leader of the team, that they had everything they needed to win, that they had everything that they needed to succeed. That they knew where they were going, They knew how they were going to go from the airport to the hotel. They knew where they were going from the hotel to, they knew everything because I made sure of it. Because, see, I had been to extravaganza before. They haven't. So, of course, they don't know, right? And I'm like, well, and then, of course, my attitude was, well, I figured it out, so should they. But here's the thing. When you have that kind of attitude, you're not setting your team up to win. Imagine the soccer player, the soccer team's coach, the USA coach, not giving these guys a plan, not running through the drills, not telling them this is the play that we're going to do, not telling them anything. And go, all right, man, all right, see you at 1 o'clock. Good luck. It's like, seriously, coach? Well, yeah, get on the field. You know how to play? Play. Well, I know, but, and now people are playing with uncertainty. So when you do that, it's really hard for somebody to win. Now, is it impossible? Maybe, no, not really. Okay? And yes, I get that the fact is we want to have self-responsibility. Holding yourself responsible and accountable for every result and every effect of your action or inaction. I get that, So here's the thing. You cause yourself, but you also cause your team. If you can really get that concept, and like I said, next week, I really want to start, maybe it's not next week, the week after that, but I really want to start giving you guys these distinctions and these things that I learned over the weekend with the advanced course because it was mind-boggling. I'm like, oh my gosh, if we operated like this, our world would be a different place to live in, right? But here's the thing. When you start looking at how you're going to start building a team of people, you got to get that the ownership starts with you. You're going to set the standard. You're going to set the expectations. You're going to set the bar of how things should go. Okay? And this is why it's so important when we talked about knowing your values and knowing the atmosphere, the environment of the people that you want to bring, okay? Because when you have it crystal clear how you want your team to play, how you want your team to go, when somebody comes in, they'll get with the program, right? Like if you're the type of person that you buy every excuse in the book. And, 9 o'clock sharp, I'm sure a couple of people got on the call late, but I can't be waiting till everyone gets on the call because then I'm setting that expectation that it's fine to get on the call whenever you want. It's like, no, it's 9 o'clock sharp, you guys, we're going to start the call. And thank you for those that get on the call before 9. Because, again, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you hide on the call, like I said last week, where you can't even say your name, I can only assume that you're hiding in your life. If you're not willing to say hello to me here on the call, I can only assume that you also don't say hello to people when you're walking down the street. Now, what does that matter? It matters big time. Because here's the thing. You take you everywhere you go. And what's really fantastic, and I loved what she said over the weekend, is that when you start shifting, when you start transforming the way that you operate in life, the relationship you have with yourself also transforms. So get that really quick. How you start holding everybody else to account. And this is another thing. Many times, and I'm going to talk about this on the call. Actually, yeah, I'm going to jump to the next week. We're going to conclude today, but next week we're going to talk about this whole phenomenon of how to work, how to transform a level of group, or how to operate at a level of group. And that is when you can get that. I just lost my top. Oh yeah, when you can get that how you operate. And the way you start to shift, the way you are with the call, saying, hello, hi, this is Karla, and you put yourself on mute. When somebody walks in the room, you say, good morning, things like that. What will start to happen is you will start to relate to yourself in a whole new way. And, when you start to, who you are for yourself starts to transform and starts to shift, there's no telling what you could do. Because at the end of the day, you act in life based on how you relate to yourself. So this is why it's so important that as a team, as a leader with your team, how you're going to be mentoring your guys is at the moment you see them disengaged, The moment you see them disconnected, the moment you see them pulling back, the moment you can notice that, if you can actually take the time to walk over there and go, hey, man, what's going on? I noticed that you've been coming late lately. Talk to me. What's up? And you create a safe space, not like, dude, you've been coming late. What's up? Right? It's all in the way that you're being. So if you have a tendency, which I know I had to work on this a lot with myself, if you have a way of being that or a tendency to be very intense, I invite you to take a deep breath, pray or meditate, whatever, for like 2 seconds, and then just get present to who you want to be for that person, right? And so that's another thing that we learned at the advanced course. We got to create ourselves into a new future. And so what happened was you could say, like, you know what, who I am, and then create yourself right there, right? Like, I don't mean to get religious, but like the whole power of I am. So if you could say, like, who I am is compassionate. And then you walk over to that person and go, hey, man, what's going on? I've noticed you've been coming late, for the last couple of classes. Is everything okay? That person will not hear, well, they'll hear what you said, but that person will get you are compassionate. Because at that moment, that's how you created yourself. Because at the end of the day, you guys, we are only what we say we are. So if you say you're lazy, guess what? Bam, you're lazy. And you're going to take the actions that a lazy person would take. If you say you're intentional, like yesterday, I wrote on my whiteboard, Monday, intentionality. And all day I was thinking, I'm intentional. I had so many things to do because I was gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day. No phone, nothing, right? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was gone, so I had laundry, all these things. And then they shut off the water in my building, and I could have been like, oh, my God. No, I was like, okay, I'm intentional. What can I do until they turn on the water back in my building? And I started doing this, started doing that. And so I got intentional, and I guess what? I literally, with the exception of one thing on my list, it wasn't a long list because there was like a lot of things. I needed to wash my clothes, I needed to clean my car, all these things. I wanted my life to be back in integrity, back in impeccability. Because I walked into my room and I was like, this is a mess, right? Because I would come home at like almost at 12:30 every night. So my clothes was whatever, and so yesterday I'm like, oh my God, this is a mess. So I straightened things out. So when I left, it was like impeccable. My bed, everything was in its place. Why is that important? Because, again, how you do one thing, you do everything. And here's the thing. When you're talking about mentoring people, you've got to mentor them in real time. You can't be waiting. And here's another thing I learned when I was coaching. And I think I mentioned it. I think I shared with you guys. I shared this with you guys one time. And that was my Monday night. We had our class, right? And we had a follow-up call like the next day. And it was funny because, well, first let me give you my point. So we would have a call like the next day with the participants and just go, hey, let's say Mario. Hey, Mario, how's it going? How was class last night? Now we had scheduled calls, right? But so then they would say what they would say, how it was, what they learned, if they would, and they would communicate anything that was unresolved or incomplete with them. So here's why this is important that you mentor in real time. It's because at that moment, the next day, within 24 or 48 hours, this person was left with this thing in their mind. Let's just say that somebody didn't say hi to them. As silly as that sounds, there have been people that have left this business because they were like, oh, well, so-and-so didn't acknowledge me. Now, they probably would have left anyway eventually because that's really childish, but if we could prevent that from happening by a simple phone call, like, for example, hey, man, how was yesterday's meeting for you? Oh, it was really great, but I got to tell you, you know what? I don't know, but this person, they didn't say hi to me, and they get all pouty about it, right? And you can address it right there and then. And that person gets resolved. Now they're back in the game. Because what happens is, what has us check out of a lot of things is that we let things layer. Something bothers you, you don't resolve it. Like, look at, perfect example, and then I'm going to finish the call. Perfect example of real-time resolve. Now, granted, I have the distinction, but you as a mentor could do this the moment you see it. When Angelo told me about the flip-flops, that was Friday. I could have been with that Saturday and Sunday. And I could have been like Saturday, oh my God, all day Friday I could have been like, this guy, he's so bossy. And I could have made this huge story, and I would have created him as a monster, right? And then it would have been, then all day Saturday, every time I saw Angelo, I would have had an attitude with him. I was down, he was rude and blah, 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 right? And then Sunday, same thing, right? But why? All because I didn't have literally the courage to talk to him. So here's the thing. Most people don't have that courage or don't have that distinction. But you as a leader, if you notice something's up with them, you can literally pull them aside and go, hey, what's going on? I noticed, I noticed you're a little different. Talk to me. And they go, oh, well, you know what? That guy Angelo, blah, 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 whatever, right? And then you can resolve it and go, you know what? I bet you he was just double checking. Because I asked him to make sure that everybody looks presentable at the STS and that looks professional, and he was just doing his job. That's all. And then, boom, problem resolved, right? And that's what we mean by real-time mentoring. Biting things, nipping things in the butt the moment